My name's Kathy Marconi, and I went to Lapland in Finland in November. And I thought today I'd talk about my journey, but designing your next cold weather adventure and preparing for it. But I'd like to hear why you're here and if you've been to the Arctic Circle or you're planning, but pretty quickly, because we have a number of people. Could we go around the room and just give me your name, I'm terrible at names, and what you'd like to get out of this? Do you want to start?
I'm Annabelle Lesher, and no, I haven't been up there, but I'd love to see it.
Okay.
My name is Merle Nolan. I did get to the Arctic Circle last year because I went to Iceland. And then I've always wanted to go to Norway, and that's been on my bucket list, so that's why I'm here.
I'm Doug Holly, similar, always wanted to travel, I think we're a little more about it.
I'm Betty Mackey. My husband grew up in Finland. He came to the US when he was 14. I have visited Finland, but not the Arctic Circle.
I'm Wendy Sunquist. I have no desire to go to but I thought I would just listen to your adventure in a nice warm room. But I am going to Norway in September. So, and I am Swedish heritage, so I do have Scandinavian interest.
Take lots of pictures.
I'm Serene. I enjoy Arctic travel. That's good. I'm also Serene and a mother. And last year I went to the Orkney Islands. And once you get up there, you begin to think, what else is further along? And that's what I'm thinking, and that's why I'm here. I'm Helen Burwanger, and I've done a lot of traveling, but not that area, so.
Tony Calabro, have not been there, going in March, and looking forward to it. And just wanted to get a primer and see more of what we don't already know about it. So thank you.
I'm Cindy, his wife, and I'm going to join him in his
I'm Eva Storzanik. I've been as far north as Tallinn in Estonia, but not been to any of the Scandinavian countries, and I would love to see the aurora borealis. That's what on my bucket is.
And then you have somebody else.
Yes, I'm on Zoom, Mary.
Mary, you can hear us, right? And you need to unmute yourself, it looks like.
Okay, do you want to introduce yourself, Mary?
Okay, yes, I'm actually Missy Unkovic. I've been in the Arctic Circle probably 3 times, but I've never seen the Northern Lights, and I'd love to do that.
Thank you, Mary. Maybe Mary should be teaching. Well, let's get started. I'm going to talk about planning, what we did for planning, activities, and some of the food and other experiences we had. And I'll show some short videos as I go through this. And please, if you have a question, just raise your hand. I want this before I'll ask a question. I want this to be interactive. We flew Icelandair. We flew Icelandair to Helsinki. We spent a few days in Helsinki getting accustomed to the time zone. And I don't know about you, but I found as I get older, I need a little time to get accustomed to time zones. And then we took Finnish Air and we went to Rovaniemi, excuse me. Now, is this supposed to work?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
How do you spell Rovaniemi?
Roveniamie, I believe.
Is it very difficult to pronounce the
Wait.
words there?
Wait a minute, Rovan, sorry, Rovaniemi.
Okay.
It's on the document that was sent, sorry. Yeah, just a heads up, guys. The outline she's following is on the course page, so you have access to it.
This is just a scenario starting in Helsinki and ending, the first and last slide are Helsinki, just giving you different scenes that I'm going to go into later in this.
Santa's Village.
Pause this real quick because the sound is coming through my computer, which means it's not going there.
Well, it's okay, it's just background music.
Oh, I heard you talking, so.
Okay. So the last slide is in Helsinki, actually, in an art museum that's just incredible. So we flew Icelandair, and just a few points about the Arctic Circle. Does anyone know why the Arctic Circle is called the Arctic Circle?
And it's cold?
It's cold.
Certain parallel.
It's about the 66th parallel. It varies a little. It's called the Arctic Circle because that is the place where there is total daylight in the summer and total night in the winter. So that is why it's called the Arctic Circle. And this is Finland. And we flew to Helsinki, and then we flew to Rovaniemi, if I can pronounce it right. And then we took a bus a bit north to Santa's Village. First surprise, there are 180,000 people north of the Arctic Circle in Finland. Alaska, just by comparison, you can see the Arctic Circle there. Alaska has 18,000 people. I had to keep looking on the internet and saying that has to be wrong, but it isn't. It has like 5 times the geographic area of the Arctic Circle of Lapland, but very few people compared to Lapland and Sweden and Norway. Now, Lapland covers Sweden, Norway, you're going to Norway, Finland, and Russia. And Russia. And the native people are called Sami. Can you say? It's what struck me about this, the Sami, I hadn't thought about an unexpected consequence of the war in Ukraine, is that the Sami are the reindeer herders. They own all the reindeer, and there really are no wild reindeer. They all have a notching or a marking in the ear, and they're owned by specific Sami families. And what's really interesting is there's a council, and the Sami used to go between the borders. They were porous between the 4 countries. And the council would set, it was semi-autonomous almost, some of the governance for those countries. But with the Ukraine war, Russia is completely cut off now. So it's really the other 3 countries that the Sami can move back and forth and semi-govern. So it's very different from Alaska and has many more people, which was surprising. The other surprising point was, let's see. It's not
Try now.
there. Was look at how flat it is. You think of Alaska, you think of mountain ranges. Norway has mountain ranges. The highest mountain range, or the highest mountain in Lapland, Finland, is 4,000 something feet, and it's right by the Norwegian border. So it is a flat area with pine trees, and the further north you go, the more stunted the pines get, and until there's no pines and snow. So let's play this video, if you could, Trina.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. This is flying in. So can you see how flat it is?
Yeah,
Oh, it's,
that seems disappointing.
yes.
How has sea rise affected that whole area? It's already holding a lot of water, it looks like.
Yeah, there's like 10,000 lakes in Finland or something, just a huge number of lakes. With the ice melting, it could.
It looks like they're ice.
In fact, the Samoy people have taken up environmental change as one of their main priorities there. That I do know. So it's flat. So it's a very different experience than going to Alaska.
Oops. Sorry. It's when I come back over here, then I have to put it there and click on it.
Okay, this is
It's trying to start your video.
okay. Can I go the next slide? Then?
Yeah.
That is?
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, let's go here first.
Minus.
So let's talk about just basic preparation. That is minus 15 degrees Celsius, which is 5 degrees Fahrenheit. There was a cold spell while we were there. The weather got down to about 0 to 2 degrees when you went out in the countryside, and it never got above freezing. In fact, in Helsinki, it never got above freezing till the day we left. Yes.
Fahrenheit?
No, that's Celsius. So minus 15 Celsius is 5
degrees
Fahrenheit. So it is cold. And we walked 13,000 steps on average a day. Most of it outside. So you need to be dressed for it. And you need to do a lot of internet research. Tony, how cold is it going to be when you go in March, you know?
I've read different things, but it appears that the lows will be in the low 20s, and the highs will be about freezing.
Okay.
Fahrenheit. 32.
So a little bit warmer, but not much.
Yeah, correct.
Not much. So how do you prepare? Well, you've probably been online, if you've ever been online and looked. It's called layers. I wore silk long johns. I wore knit pants. And then I wore this. And this I got from Columbia Outlets. There are all kinds of hacks you learn online. This you can put on your backpack. I'll go into suitcases and backpacks, but you can put it on your backpack. And what is it? It's a pair of Gore-Tex snow pants.
Oh, snow pants.
That stop the wind.
Was those online or did you get them out there?
At the outlets here.
Yeah.
The sales lady was very helpful. So they're a bit wrinkled, but you don't care how you look, basically. So you can just get a pair of these, and that's really,
That's a very good idea.
yes. I wore 2 pairs of socks. I had liners and then I wore wool socks. And then I had boots that I bought a size bigger so that I could fit in them.
And what were your liner socks made of? They silk or wool?
I think they were wool.
Wool is very perfect.
And then for a coat, I chose to buy a down coat. Down is not good in wet situations. There are some fabrics now that they've made that work. However, I just decided that it wasn't going to be that wet there. It wasn't. There were 30 inches of snow on the ground, but it did not freeze. So I bought a big down coat. And I saved money. If you ever want to save money, I got year's Land End down coat that only came in pink. Right, Barbie pink.
Yeah.
But, I figured if there's a snowstorm, I'm not going to get lost.
You might, but they'll find you.
Yeah, they'll find me. They'll find me. So it's cold, you need a good amount of clothes. I had initially packed one heavy suitcase and I decided it was too heavy because in Europe, I know from traveling there before, there are stairs sometimes you have to climb. So I brought 2 smaller suitcases and a backpack. I never bring that much. I spent most of my career, the end of my career, working in Africa, taking trips to Africa, and I could easily pack enough for one suitcase that was a carry-on. Well, here I have 2 suitcases packed. I couldn't bring much back. And
But your clothes are so much bulkier
yes,
than African clothes.
and I decided not to wear boots on the plane, so they were packed.
I would wear my boots on, even to Iceland.
Okay.
They're heavy
Yeah.
for a suitcase.
I know. So you have to be prepared for bringing more than normal. So I think that's any of the questions on clothes.
How about your hands?
Oh, my hands. A neighbor in Oxford, Sarah Ramsey, had lived in Upper Michigan for a while. So she had the liners and really heavy. No, I brought gloves.
Okay.
I figured with the liners, the gloves would be enough.
Did you have those little
I had hand warmers and foot warmers, but I didn't need them
Okay.
because I was moving most of the time outside. I wasn't sitting. So, anything else?
It's sort of back to the socks. I heard you say wool. Thin wool
Very
as the
thin.
liner and
as
then thick wool
thick wool.
on top?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
How about your head?
Is that because the wool does a better job of absorbing? Is that why wool is recommended? Because I've heard that before. Does anyone know?
I think it wicks the moisture away.
Right, you want to wick
And you
it
don't
out.
want wet feet.
Oh,
Wool is warm when wet,
oh,
but it does get wet.
yeah.
It's more.
I mean, it's most countries.
I bought a hat here to Finland, and then I realized, given that it was a cold spell in Helsinki and below freezing, and it was windy in Helsinki, that I needed a warmer hat, so I bought a hat in Finland that, a wool hat that was lined with like heavy fleece.
Yes, it's more comfortable on your head then.
Yes, and it came all the way down. And then, oh no, I did bring, as a joke, I got my husband a lumberjack hat with the flaps.
Yeah.
You'll see it in at least one of the
I got
pictures.
my son one.
And that was wonderful.
Oh, that's a good point with the earmuffs.
Yes, it had
Yeah,
earmuffs.
you don't have to wear it.
Or they're called the mad bomber's hats.
Yes.
I mean, those are wonderful.
Yes.
They get all around.
We've never used it, so this was good. Yes.
Kathy, when you say boots, do you mean boots like hiking boots? Or do you mean boots like galoshes? And what did you wear in the city of Helsinki in terms of boots?
I wore wool sneakers in Helsinki because there wasn't snow. or there was snow in piles, but it was like here, I mean, it
Okay.
was over there. I wore, in Lapland, I wore, thigh-level boots. Okay, in Lapland, at least in the Finnish Lapland, the main road is cleared, which is a 2-lane highway, 1 lane in each direction. All the other roads that I saw had tamped down snow that you drove on or walked on. And if you had children with you, which I'll get to in a minute, they wanted to play in the snow too, so you walked in the snow. So I would recommend, look and see how much snowfall there is before you go. And if there's not a lot, you can wear hiking boots. But if there is, I'd recommend getting lined boots that come up a bit.
Fleece, I have some fleece lined boots, which I used to wear at the hockey rinks. They keep
That'd be perfect. That'd be perfect.
fleece lined.
The felt liner, but also very good.
And I found some in the outlets, in prime outlets that I bought that were fine. But REI, Columbia, they all have. At Land's End, you can order online. LLB, they all have.
A little bean is more expensive.
Yeah, I did not go there. There were 7 of us, I should mention, that went. And we had 2 children, and the joke we had a cabin, which you saw quickly, but I'll show you again. The joke was that it took a half hour to get dressed and undressed. And we couldn't imagine. I talked to a resident there. She said, yeah, you just do that every morning in the winter. Okay.
Yeah.
So the trees are all coated with ice and snow. It's beautiful, as this shows. And that is the sun. The sun comes up over the horizon in November, and it looks like that. So it's light out, but it's not overhead. This is like at 1 in the afternoon.
So this is as bright as it gets?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about as bright as it gets. This is a dorky me, okay? My daughter had a full length coat, but it worked. I mean, I was outside for hours on end, and you can see all the ice and snow on the trees. So you just, it's a dry cold, and it isn't windy. So it works. So let's talk about how much of an adventure you want. Do you usually go on tours? Do you usually, make your own arrangements? What do you?
We go on tours, but we work with travel agents.
Okay,
We like experts.
okay. Anyone else? Tours?
We go to Spanish.
All
over the world.
We had a daughter, I have a daughter who works part-time in Helsinki and lives in Holland. So I had a little in. So she made a lot of the arrangements. We decided to do day trips that we'd organize ourselves. She got a cabin that we'll take a picture, look at, that was attached to a hotel that had breakfast. We did not stay in a nice hotel. We could have, but ice hotels. I did go to an ice bar, you'll see a photo of that, but I wanted to go to a warm place to sleep at night. So she did a lot of the arrangements. This was off-season in November there. So we did not pay for a lot of tours ahead of time because we wanted to see what the weather was like, especially with the northern lights. But this gives you an idea of some of the fun we had there. That's real. That's back in Helsinki. Google Photos, when you make a story, you have a very hard time rearranging photos. So, and and that, by the way, you see that mountain back? That's the Amos Rex Museum. That's underground and has these mounds. That's actually glass that lets in light and back.
Did you go there?
Yes, yes. Yes, it's worth go. It's very different. It's very modern. If you don't like modern art, I wouldn't go there.
Well, we're gonna be in Helsinki for 3 days, so I think we'll probably go.
Yes. Yes, most people start the Arctic by going somewhere like Helsinki or Stockholm or someplace and then going up. Okay, wait, let's wait a minute on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I went.
The video messes it up.
Yeah, okay, let's wait a minute. I wanted to talk about husky rides, because we went on a husky ride, and it was a wonderful way to see the wilderness. Now, I have this short video to show you how bumpy it was. If you have any back problems, I do not recommend a husky ride. So let me show you this video. They go very fast. It's beautiful though, because it's very quiet, because you're out in the woods.
Just a comment, there's a really nice boat trip from Helsinki to Estonia. And so you get to then tour the city a little bit, and I actually, at that time, I had a film camera, and I ran out of film. I was surprisingly was able to buy film over there. But it's very interesting, it adds a little bit if you have enough time to do that.
How long of a boat trip is that?
How long a trip?
Yeah, boat trip.
30 minutes maybe.
Okay, and then you spend time.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, we do that.
And the beer that's made in Finland is cheaper if you buy it in Estonia, so. I unknowingly came back with a case to my name.
Is Estonia part of Russia now, or is it?
It always has been, so I imagine it is.
I think it's independent.
Yeah, I think it's independent, yeah. It's independent.
He just said it's in.
Yeah, it's
It's a member of
independent,
NATO.
right.
I think it's on yes list.
Yeah.
Independent.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And then the other thing is that, I didn't know for a while that reindeer are domesticated caribou. That caribou are wild and reindeer are the domesticated caribou.
And you saw from that film, there are white reindeer,
Yes.
which is beautiful, and brown reindeer, all different types of reindeer. And you can go to a reindeer farm. That's what we did. That's where we saw the reindeer ride. And you can't feed them obviously, but they're in corrals. You can look at them. You can walk around. You can go on reindeer rides. Yeah, it's worth doing. I skipped over this before, but I just wanted to point it out. Our cabin had a sauna. So, it was quite nice.
Is that typical of homes there?
Yes, yes, and all the hotels have saunas. Oh, and the tradition is, you go into the sauna and then you leave and you jump into an icy pond.
Oh, jeez.
And then you go back in. Well, the hotel had what looked like a whirlpool by the sauna and pool.
It was, I think.
I, like a dummy, thought it was a whirlpool and stepped into it. And it was an ice bath that went into it, to the sauna. And it was freezing. So if you see something that looks like a whirlpool, check it out first. So, that keeps you warm, okay? Let's go. Oh, I went the wrong way. I went the wrong way. I remember.
Yes, that's one.
Okay. So what else can I say? Oh, so I'll go in a little bit else about what we did. You saw very briefly pictures of children in helmets. There were a lot of snowmobile rides and then like ice karting rather than go-karting. The rest of the family took a snowmobile ride in the wilderness. I just decided, you heard how quiet that was? I wanted to just hike. So my sister and I just hiked in the wilderness. You could also go cross-country skiing, which we should have arranged for, but we didn't. So you have your choice. You can go dog sledding, you can go snowmobiling, you can go ice snowmobiling, or you can go just hiking or skiing, cross-country skiing. You can also do what they call snowshoes.
We're gonna go ice fishing.
You could- Okay, they had not only ice fishing, they have in the winter where the water's not frozen, you can get into suits and go in the water to watch the northern lights. To these enormous wetsuits. I don't know how they do it. We did not do that.
That was on the Reluctant Traveler,
Page.
yeah, Eugene, he did that in this big orange suit. Yeah, he laid down in the water.
No.
Now, I would do that.
So I brought some books back on this, travel that goes into the whole area of Lapland and the Arctic Circle. And Finland Travel Guide, and then I picked this up in Helsinki. It's Travel as a Tool, and it's a book about how travel has broadened Finnish designers, and so that the beautiful designs they have in clothing and furniture and everything, so that you can pass that around, so that it's important that travel opens your, eyes to new things.
It's education.
So this I got off the internet. This is the traditional costumes of the Sami. To be very honest, the Sami dress today just like the rest of the Finns. And there's been a lot of intermarriage. So like at a craft mart, a man was showing me his wife's Sami knitting and crocheting. And then he showed us pictures of her, and she had blonde hair and looked like the Finnish. So, but just so you know, this is, I would imagine you could go on a traditional holiday and,
I should have brought, I have reindeer boots, and special, and hats. I should have brought them. I should have done.
Is that what those pelts are?
yes.
Reindeer?
Yes, probably. Good point about reindeer, though. They use every part of the reindeer. The hooves make jewelry. You eat the reindeer meat, I'll get into that. The fur, you can buy throws, they were selling rugs there. So every part of the reindeer is used. I wanted to talk a bit about food. That is a picture of a reindeer appetizer. It's chopped reindeer.
Is that like a beef patty kind of?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
it's an appetizer though.
Is it reindeer or is it caribou or doesn't it matter?
They have reindeer, they don't have caribou.
Okay.
And caribou or wild, or wild
Yeah,
reindeer.
I was just curious if they ate the domesticated caribou or the wild caribou.
They have no wild caribou, but
I don't have any caribou, period.
Oh,
I
yeah,
have just reindeer.
reindeer.
oh, okay.
How did you like it?
Okay, we've tried it twice. I have a son-in-law, so there were 7 of us with 2 children, including 2 children. I have a son-in-law who's a real foodie, okay? He went to the Royal College of Agriculture, he's British, and he loves food. And he and I had the same reaction as the reindeer, because I had deer, and we've had deer venison there, and I love it. It tasted like what we had twice tasted like a cross between steak and liver. It had a very odd taste. Now, maybe it was the two times in two different restaurants. I was disappointed in eating reindeer.
Did it have like the texture of liver?
And it was a cross between that and steak. So it's worth trying.
Yeah.
Everything's worth trying once, but when you try it again, probably not. But it wasn't just reindeer that was there. That's that. I don't know if I can stop it, but let's go back. So let's look at this again. You're going to see salmon. You're going to see one of the restaurants in Santa's Village. That's one of these teepees that they have that are made of wood. And they cook the salmon over a fire pit in the middle of this teepee that has a pipe coming from the ground with air up, and then a pipe going up that takes the air out. And you sit in little tables around the fire, which is the traditional way of eating the food there, and you eat the cooked salmon. It's just delicious. And then the last two pictures are of an ice bar, where you sit on ice stools at an ice table, and they have made an ice slide for the children, which you can see briefly. And that keeps the kids happy while you're having a drink.
What's in the ice slides?
What
is in the ice slides?
It's just a sliding.
Just a slide. And
Just ice,
ice.
like not flavored or anything?
No, this is an ice, oh, that's not a drink.
It's like,
Meryl, it's the unreal slide.
Okay. I'm sorry.
it's like a mud slide, it's an ice slide.
Can we start this video?
Yeah.
Sorry, you can take another look.
I thought you were talking to
Oh, she's still controlling it. Now it won't let you?
Now we're
Well, that's funny because.
Yeah, you're
doing so good on the last couple.
Let us go. Big fire.
Is that French toast?
That is their potato bread. It's a flat breakfast bread they have. It's delicious. It has cheese in it. Just delicious. And I don't know if I can go back. Did you see the ice slide, the real ice slide in there?
When you go back to that.
Yeah, let's, can we go?
Okay, now. Were the northern lights an everyday occurrence?
Oh, we're getting to that.
Oh.
We'll get to that,
Because
yeah.
I could see it there in that one picture, so.
There's some northern light, not every day, but there, when it's not cloudy, you can see it. One thing not in these is,
Trying to get this to.
well, two things that were not in these were the berries. They have incredible berries there. You probably have them in
The
South
food there was so good. I mean, the potatoes, the strawberries, the peas, everything seemed to be was so good. I don't know if it's because of more daylight, the soil, but did you notice that? Did you?
Yes, and the berries, they have cloudberries and lingonberries. They have berries that we don't normally have here. Very tiny, just delicious. So at the end, you're gonna be able to taste the lingonberries on crackers that I brought back.
Do they grow everything in greenhouses? I mean, with the temperatures, I can't
It
imagine.
didn't look like Iceland. No, the berries are out in the wild. The salmon is caught and the reindeer is raised outside.
Well, yeah, I was thinking vegetables, where that you guys were talking about the vegetables.
Vegetables are imported somewhere.
And IKEA carries the lingonberry and the jams and jellies.
Yes.
IKEA?
IKEA does, yeah.
Are there any lingonberries locally? Does anybody know?
No, they're not.
Sauces or jams?
It has to have a colder temperature, I believe, for the bushes to thrive.
Actually, the lingonberry crackers is from IKEA because I brought a big jar of it and made the mistake of putting it in my check bag and it didn't make it back here. The crackers, however, are from Finland. And I brought some candy back from Finland too. But somebody must have wanted lingonberry jam.
Because it's agriculture, I guess, it's planted, right?
It is, but it was in a jar, sealed.
Sealed, it shouldn't have been.
It shouldn't have been.
It shouldn't.
So, the berries were incredible, the salmon was incredible, just a lot of salmon up there. And the crackers, has anybody heard of Moomin Mama and Moomin Papa and the Moomins?
No.
No, I've not seen them. We'll pass this
Oh.
on.
It's in a fictitious animal.
Wait a minute, I'll get it on the screen for Mary.
Okay.
You haven't heard? Okay, there are storybooks of Moomins. They started with crackers, a Swedish storyteller created it, but Finland has adopted it, all of Scandinavia. And they're on crackers and cookies. And there are families of Moomins, and it's a TV show, and there's whole stores where they sell them. So, and this is something cultural you may not be aware of. So this is Santa's village here. And you can see how huge that pine tree is. Look at that. Again, there were only pines and spruces there. There were no deciduous trees at all. And those towers, one of them has the temperature on it. And the other two that are matching say the Arctic Circle. The Arctic Circle passes right through Santa's village. The middle of it.
Is that how he gets to everywhere so fast?
Yes. There is a Santa's postcard. I sent my husband. So, there's a whole post office. They receive a number of countries send all their Santa Claus mail, the children right there, to be stamped and some kind of postcard sent back. They receive 500,000 letters a year in Santa's village because it is the official Santa's village. And Santa's village has restaurants and shops, tourists. It's a tourist village. I would recommend what Tony and what is your name? Civic are doing, which is if you don't have children, you can stay at a ski resort or another resort for a little further on. We had 2 children. We stayed at Santa's village, and I'll re-show you Santa's house again, which it's Mrs. Santa's house, and it's wonderful for children. But we stayed on the outskirts of it, so we were not in the middle of it. We had to walk maybe a half mile to get there. And you can see the snow on the ground. I mean, they just pat it down and walk over it. Now, Santa's village, okay, all these modern touristy stores, and I come across this sign. The Roosevelt Cottage, Arctic Circle cabin. Eleanor Roosevelt went there in 1950, after the war, as a goodwill for UNICEF. And they built the front part of this little cottage for her. There was nothing in Santa's village at that point for her. And that was the beginning of Santa's village. Isn't that interesting? So that's typical of the building there, the traditional building. If you're going to look at anything that's predates World War II, stay in Helsinki and southern Scandinavia. Finland Finland was a autonomous Russian protectorate until 1970. Finland then, just as a little bit of history, became independent, but Russia was always threatening it. So Finland sided with the Germans initially in World War II because they did not want the Russians to invade them. Well, Finland switched sides as the war progressed. And the Germans who were in Lapland at that point, they had a military outpost near Rovaniemi, burnt 90% of the buildings in Rovaniemi, and they burnt 50% of the buildings that were there in Lapland. So there is nothing picturesque about or historic buildings. Isn't that, I mean, this is 1950, and it's the beginning of
Not that long.
tourism there. No.
Can I add just a little bit to that?
Yes.
You know, my husband was born in 1938. So along that border between Russia and Finland, what the Finns did to help protect that border was to evacuate the people, the Finnish people that were living along that border and burn their homes. So that the Russians, if they came, they wouldn't have any place to live. So these people were all displaced, and like my husband and his family had to take another family in to live with them. So it was really rough.
And then to this day, Karelia, which is in the middle of Helsinki, remember that long, how long it is, North Karelia is part of Finland, but they had to give up East Karelia at the end of World War II and evacuate more people from there. So you're right.
So he didn't even, when he started school, he had to wear his mother's shoes, you know, because it was just that area, the leather was really hard to get. It was really rough for those people.
So that, you know, Finland's had a hard history, really has.
And tough people.
Yes. So that's Eleanor Roosevelt's cabin, which you can go inside. And this is Mrs. Santa's house, because I thought it was prettier than Santa's house. And that's a daughter. And you can see how she's dressed. And they're elves. And we asked the little boy what he thought, and he said, I finally got to see this real Santa.
So did your grandchildren, were they well entertained? Did they find it a very enjoyable trip?
Yep. Oh, they had a wonderful time. Well, they're a little older, they're 9 and 11. Just turned 11.
Still on the trip?
Yeah.
Does the real Santa look like the Santa that's in the malls here?
Yes. Doesn't look like Father Christmas.
Did the kids still believe in Santa? Because the 11-year-old was probably on the.
The 11-year-old was pretending, the 9-year-old.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
figured.
Yeah, 11-year-old was pretending. The kids went ice karting, they had a kids ice karting that they went to. They loved the reindeer farm because, I didn't put this in, but you can roast marshmallows outside over an open fire.
Is that a radiant star hanging over the door?
Yes.
It looks like it. Yes.
I'm a little surprised culturally why it would be there.
Oh.
It's over the doorway, over the Santa Claus,
Yeah. I
Right,
see
but
that.
given the
in the window.
I didn't look at
It's
it.
a Moravian star.
star. Yeah,
I don't know.
26 points.
Okay.
It's a very specific star and it comes from much further south in Europe originally. So exactly why, that sort of surprised me, and I can't really tell if there are points coming toward us. It looks like it could be a meridian star,
Okay.
but there'd be a lot more than one point pointing toward us if it's a true.
I see what you're saying, so maybe it's not.
Well, you know, one thing was most of the staff in Santa's Village were immigrants
From?
from
So you can get a job.
Europe and the Mideast.
Well, that may explain
So
it.
that could explain it. I was very surprised, and they were quite incorporated and proud to be in Finland. Very proud. The man from, the guide we'll get to on the Northern Lights from Pakistan was our photographer guide, and he was just thrilled to be there, and he's finally bringing his family there, and he loved Lapland. Okay, this is what you see on the web, right? The Northern Lights. This is very unusual, our guide told us, to see them at this magnitude. So we went from, you know, expecting this to these are the, we drove an hour and a half into the wilderness near the Swedish border, north and west. You first stop at their office and you put on these outfits, and you can see my lumberjack hat. They're one-piece ski outfits. They don't even want you to wear yours. So you're in the middle of a wilderness, and I should say, you have a chance to go by bus, by van, or by private car. Since there were a group of us, we decided to splurge and go by private car because, well, all the vans were full and we didn't want to go by bus. Bus, they have like, what, 50 people out, you know, in the wilderness. So I would say the one thing to splurge on is if you're going to see the Northern Lights, go at least by van. Don't go by bus.
What did you wear under those onesies?
What I described before, 2 layers, basically.
Okay.
Everything but her coat,
Right.
I presume.
Yeah.
So why did you have to go to a special place to see the Northern Lights? Weren't they just there if you were in that area?
He wanted to go to a hill. It's a little hilly here. Well, he wanted to get away from Roman Nevin.
The lights,
The lights of the town are,
Because I thought where you would be away from town, no?
we were, but not that far enough away. You couldn't see some lights in the sky, and it was so flat, we wanted to go to a hillside. And also, to be honest, we got a chance to see the countryside. We went through national forests, and it's just beautiful.
What time of day was this?
Okay, you leave at 7, but you have to go to the office, so it was really 8 o'clock by the time we were all dressed and everything. And
At night or
nighttime, right?
at night, 8 p.m. And we got home at 1:30 a.m. The Northern Lights didn't really come out till after 11 p.m. So be prepared to stay up most of the night when you're there. So this, let's see. This is, they have a house you can warm up in. Well, no, that was on the way there, and that's where some people were living. And this is the sky. Look at all the stars.
Beautiful, yeah.
Isn't that incredible? It is just, if you've been, you know, anywhere north like that, it's just beautiful. And you wouldn't have seen all this. But see, in the distance, that's the Northern Lights. That's not the sun. And they're all around. It's not like a sunset where it's one part of the sky. It's like 300 degrees of the 360 circle. You see them. So they were pink and yellow and white. But they were basically at the, like,
That's not very illuminating.
this is, you can see more of them here. And see that little cabin, that's a Finnish, we saw some pointed teepee places. That's one of them that they had in this clearing where you could go in to warm yourself, because that's where it was, I think, 0 degrees. It was cold.
Did they explain why some of the northern lights are blue and some are green and some are this color?
No, they didn't. Well, it's the atmosphere, I read.
Yeah, it's definitely.
But what in the atmosphere caused that?
elements.
Different gas.
The dirt.
So does that mean it's different in different locations?
No, it's different on different nights, depending on the night you're there. So those green lights do appear here, but it's very rare. This is more typical, he says. If you're going to see the northern lights, this is more typical of what you're going to see.
It's not very, doesn't seem worth it.
Well, it's amazing to see it at night with all the stars out, and then it's around the whole sky almost. It's not just a sunset.
Does it look different in person? Because it looks like a sunset in the picture. Is it different? Can you tell the difference?
Well, I didn't do a 360
Right.
camera around. I should have.
So
Do the colors look different and everything?
Yeah, slightly different. And it would go high and low. You can see, it's, with the clouds reflecting, it's higher in one place than it would go low.
So,
Yeah. He was supposed to be taking more photos than he did. Okay, we were very disappointed in the photos that the photographer took. So I would say recommend take your own photos. So this gives you an idea. This is sunset there with clouds. This gives you an idea of some of the skies in Lapland, including the northern lights. So one of the advantages of going to the Arctic is just the beauty of it. Just the sky.
That's not the moon.
It is the moon.
It is.
It is the moon. It's a little fuzzy because I enlarged it. But let's just one more time. Go back and do this one. And you started, I can't seem to start it the second time. Looks like a painting almost. It does. It does. That combined with the quiet and the snow is just the most beautiful, beautiful scenery.
Now, would you expect to be able to see the northern lights if you went to Sweden or Norway?
Yes. Yeah, to go back to the map, Sweden is parallel and Norway actually wraps around and is further north.
Much further north.
Much further north. In Norway, you will get trees in Norway. You'll just get like heather and ice, basically. Well, that's all I have. It was a wonderful trip. You may not get there, but it's worth considering. We flew back to Helsinki and spent a couple of days there with our daughter, and then we flew home. Oh, yes, a couple of budget tips, which you probably know, because most of you sound like travel. We flew home on Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah, that's a good time.
Iceland Air round trips with no luggage started at $479 in Finland. which is incredibly cheap. We paid 500 something because we had luggage and we upgraded a bit. But if you fly home on a holiday, it's incredibly cheap. Also, looking at credit cards, I was amazed that our two credit cards that had no fees, because everything is credit there. I brought,
So it's not a problem.
you don't need cash. I brought most of my cash. I had $200 worth of cash in euros just because I don't like traveling without cash. And we'll be going back to see our daughter, so. Amazon Prime, I hate to say this, but Amazon Prime has no fees.
Right. USAA also has no fees for international.
And if you have a Morgan Stanley account, you can get a Morgan Stanley credit card and they have no fees.
Otherwise, those international fees can really add up fast.
Food is very expensive there. So the Nova Skyline Hotel was the name of the hotel we stayed at. And that had breakfast. So there was in the very beginning, there was a picture of a lodge with lights coming down. I don't know if you remember, but they had a lodge where they had a reception area, you went for breakfast, and then they had cabins in the woods. So you had to get that dressed up to go to breakfast in the morning. But they did have coffee in the room, in a small kitchen counter and kitchenette. You could make coffee if you wanted to.
What were the breakfasts like? Were they sort of like a European breakfast with a lot of sliced meats and cheeses and rolls?
Yes.
Rolls and cheese.
They had that bread that we talked about, the potato bread.
And the cheese.
A lot of cheese, a lot of berries. They had wonderful yogurt, just wonderful. Yogurt.
And cheeses.
And cheeses, yeah.
I wish I would have brought back one of their cheese cutters. I mean, they were just unique and did such a nice job of slicing cheese, and I thought, oh, I can always find a cheese cutter, but you can't. Cannot find what they have.
What's different about it?
I can't remember now, it's been too long, but I don't know, that's unique.
No, I didn't.
Does anybody know about a finished cheese cutter?
But Helsinki, I found incredibly expensive. I wanted to get my grandchildren some gifts, and my goodness. I mean, like if you wanted any kind of clothing at all that we could get here for maybe $12 or $15, was theirs $60, $70, $80.
It's just expensive. I brought very little home too. What I did bring home, though, this is a story they give the children about the elves, by the way. They talk about the shed elf, the sauna elf, the barn elf, not to mention the elves at the Santa Claus main post office. But what I did bring home was, sorry. These are some of the crackers from Helsinki. And I put some lingonberry jam on them. And then I had in my suitcase a small container of cloudberry. And that I took with me. And no, I had it in my backpack, so. That's what made it now.
Cloudberry?
Cloudberry. And Finlandia has a lot of, at least Lapland has a lot of fruit marmalade jellies. So I brought those home. And then I mentioned the Moomins, the elephant, the hippopotamus-like people.
Oh, they have cookies.
They have cookies. They have cookies.
Cookies.
And I bought this at IKEA because I didn't bring this home, but rye, they make a lot of their bread with rye, at least in Lapland. And these are some of the rye crackers. So you're free to taste any of this when we're done. So are there any other questions or, anything else? I took about 200 photos, but I wasn't gonna bore you with that.
Kathy, I don't want to be intrusive, but I'm just real curious. Did you declare the food when you brought it back into the US?
No, it's under $50,
So therefore you
or
don't have to
under whatever amount they didn't even ask.
You can bring any books and tapes that.
So food is allowed to be brought back into the
If it's wrapped and
Bring back
packaged.
books with no terror. No problem getting them into the United States if you bring books.
Now, they ask you if you've open agriculture.
Oh,
The products, but
As long as it's sealed.
Yeah.
we didn't, so, no, there was no problem at all. And I flew from BWI, it's very, Iceland Air is great, and Iceland Air has new planes.
We were supposed to fly on BWI, they changed us.
Just a
So
couple
where are you
weeks
flying
ago.
out of now?
Well, we're flying out of Dulles now, we're supposed to fly to BWI. So they had us flying out of Dulles to get there, but they didn't, but they had us going back to Baltimore. So we had to change that and, but,
I always fly out of Dulles because my son gets taken to the airport.
well,
There
can
you
you
go.
take us?
Yeah.
Listen, but that's, is there a department store that sells these
Okay,
wonderful or a museum?
yes, there is a Finnish design museum
This is wonderful.
in Helsinki. And it has designs, and it's affiliated with the Finnish Architecture Museum. And it has,
That's the one that's underground, right?
no, okay, there's 3 museums we know. Okay, one is the Finnish Design Museum. And that has all the furniture and clothing, Marimekko, have you heard of
I was
this?
gonna say she.
And Italian glassware. It gives the whole history of design. And that's where I got this book, which is a history of Scandinavian design. Then there's an architecture museum, which gives a history of all the buildings that are in Helsinki and the surrounding area, and talks about the war and the displacement of the Finns and the houses they built, which were fascinating. After so many people were displaced, they came up with the townhouse that's a walk-through townhouse, the townhouses we have now, where the windows are in the front and the back. So you can build 6, houses together. They came up with that design. At least they claim to. They also came up with the Angry Birds game. So that was in the design museum. So the architecture museum had a lot of history of Finland. And then we went to the Amos Rex Museum. Okay, what's wonderful about, do you mind me talking about Helsinki a minute? What's wonderful, well, it isn't the Arctic Circle, but what's wonderful about Helsinki is that it still has a downtown with the big department stores. And it was November before Christmas, so they were all decorated and they've closed off 2 streets. They have like 6-story stores with an atrium in the middle. I mean, like the old Wanamaker's or, Macy's in New York or whatever. So, and they have, exhibits in the windows. So the owner of, one of the original owners of one of the department stores had a collection of impressionist paintings, a room full, that he gave with money to build this museum. It's called the Amos Rex Museum. So most of the museum is modern art, moving videos, all these different things. And then you can walk into a room and see his original impressionist, European impressionist painters. And it's all underground. They built it in a plaza that has restaurants and stores and offices around it. You think of a plaza with concrete, underneath the plaza is a whole museum.
It's like a shopping
Makes sense
center.
because it's so cold.
Yeah.
Or Wisconsin.
Yeah, 'cause I know Toronto has a whole underground shopping center mall area.
Even Atlanta has an
Makes sense when it's cold.
So it does make sense, but it's a very.
Atlanta, Georgia doesn't get that cold, but they have an underground thing on top.
Yeah, I was there.
And what they have in the harbor, which is fascinating, it's worth walking and looking at, we did that rather than going to another museum, is they have a set of pools that you can swim in, all of them in the summer, and a sauna, huge sauna. Well, it's a pool club, and you can go in the winter and go to the sauna. There's a steam pool, and then there's a regular pool that's an ice pool. And we went there, and you can go on the pier, there's a cafe, we went to the cafe. You go out, you change under the cafe, and you go outside, and you walk to the sauna in the cold and snow. And then you go to the ice pool, which is a regular pool, swim a couple of laps, and then you go to the heated pool. Swim.
You have a picture of that.
I adjust to all these different temperatures.
Yeah.
It does, I guess.
It was crowded, it was lunchtime, it was crowded with office workers swimming.
Kathy, you have a picture of that in your blog.
Yes,
Yeah.
I should have mentioned the blog that was sent to all of you has, okay. If you look at that, there are more photos in that.
That was on your reminder memo that came out this morning.
Yeah.
So go back and look at that, now you can click and open it.
And I also added to it, your outline, so a lot of the names and things that she's shared with you, you have that as a PDF, so that'll help you get.
Thank you.
When we were there, we visited friends or relatives and, everybody has a son. I was just a wreck over whether they were gonna be without clothes on. I expected me to be without clothes on too, but they did wear bathing suits. Thank goodness.
Our daughter actually had to talk to her husband has a son, an older son from a previous marriage who's British, because her husband's British, and they were not gonna wear clothes in the sauna. And our daughter said, oh no.
It's just the way they do it.
They do it. The other thing that's changed, thank goodness, is I have to admit I was in Helsinki 40 years ago on a fellowship, and they offered me, when you drank liquor there, they would take a glass that size, Merle's cup, and pour the whole thing full of liquor. They didn't do that this time.
The other thing that I experienced was no one wore underarm deodorant.
Oh, no, I didn't experience that.
You know what I was told? It's not so much that they don't wear deodorant, it's that they don't send their sweaters and things to the cleaners.
Well,
And so the odor stays in the
I went to
fabric.
a dance, we went to a dance and my goodness gracious.
You didn't stay there very long.
We were not used to that. But they seemed fine with it.
This side has been silent. Any questions or comments? Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.